Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the, I think, sixth or fifth episode of the podcast, Simple Podcast. We're back again, hopefully. uh, been busy with some stuff. I've been busy with school. Logan is probably busy with IRL shit. But yeah, we're back. We're excited to talk about random shit, to be honest. I didn't have anything to prepare, really.
Boy
Do you have
Scouts,
anything
we
on
are
mind,
not.
Logan?
No, currently not.
Hmm,
After all of the technical stuff, my brain is just like, well, what about
shut
you?
down.
Right?
uh, I don't know. I kind of been thinking out of subjects for the whole podcasting. I've been working with technical stuff, trying to get things to work,
Right.
but getting frustrated. I've been
Sure.
dealing with frustration, so I guess a lot. Like the past few weeks, feels like I've been trying to work on something, and I just like don't work on it at all.
Oh, right.
Which
Like the frustration beats you, the frustration boss.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, in
I
some
get
way or
that.
another. And like I guess also being a pessimist, like you fail at one thing and then it devolves into some weird depressive way of thinking, I guess, depressing way of thinking.
Defeatist talk. Self-talk. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I can't do
as
this,
as
so why
like
am I even trying? Fuck it.
I mean, yeah, even though it kind of doesn't make sense because you gotta keep going on trying the thing until you actually get it, because you can never really get one thing working immediately.
Right. If at first you don't
And
succeed, try again. Ugh.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a bit tricky though, because like you say I'll just keep on trying, but then you're like you keep on failing over and over again. It's like it
right.
gets tough.
Yeah.
I guess you lose a little bit of motivation or something, whatever motivation might actually mean in that case.
Right.
Yeah, I
I,
mean, I don't know. The motivation for me sounds like a very broad term. Like I don't exactly know what like it doesn't point at one thing. So I don't know if saying the word "I'm not motivated" is the right way to describe it.
I am.
Uh, but
It's a
yeah,
very
I've been
amorphous
thinking.
concept, right?
Yeah. And like the past few days, because I stopped writing my journal for like a few weeks. It does take an effect, to be honest, on me. Like I can say for sure that writing a journal does help with anxiety and such, because you actually writing what you think. And the weird thing about it is, like, as I'm writing, I'm like, this doesn't sound right, let me think it again and let me write it again.
Hmm.
So I guess you filter your thoughts way more.
I agree. Well,
And
I've always kind
it's
of
weird.
thought of when you're thinking, they're just thoughts, which really is nothing in the world. So then when you actually write it on
Yeah.
paper, it in essence head and gets brought into the real world. And then when you actually read your thoughts, sometimes you're like, oh, I'm fucked up. Or, God, I'm
Well,
brilliant. Or something along those lines, you know?
I mean, I do realize things like, yeah, I'm not as well put together as I would like to think I am.
Right, right. That's just you
It's
being honest with
as a
yourself.
thing.
I think most people aren't that honest
Yeah,
with themselves. Yeah.
because I don't know. Like, there's few things that I'm still young. Let's be honest. But there's few things that I think I'm still realizing is, like, the past few weeks dealing with, I guess, a little bit of anxiety, mostly social related, and dealing with a little bit of not being able to get things done, motivation, for a lack of better words, to do things and
Right.
work on my project, which is really close to be done. And I remember trying to like talk to people sometimes, and well, ended up with you know, they did not respond in about a few days, and I'm like,
Hmm.
I don't wanna like, are they ignoring me? But at the same time, if I look at my own like people, if I look at my own actions, I do end up sometimes ignoring people for like a few days. Maybe they're going through some tough time. I'm as guilty as everyone else,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
So it's just that's how people are. That's how things are, you know. I'm not
Hmm.
exactly any better than
Nope.
anyone else that I might be judging right now, because like I cannot demand people to be there for me. That's ridiculous.
Right. Exactly.
Would be
Well,
nice
I
sometimes,
Well, I feel the exact
but
same thing because over the weekend, I like H.P. Lovecraft, and a lot of his stories are written in letter form. You know, they're like late 1800s, early 1900s, and a lot of his books are correspondences. So this person is writing a letter, reading the letter that they wrote, and then you read the response letter, and so it's just this. And when I think about those times when people actually wrote letters down, like pages of letters, and sent them in the mail, and and then it took however long it took for the mail to arrive, and they would read them, and then they would have to respond and then send it back. And we're so instant now. It's like, well, fucking respond, will you? But over the weekend, I wrote a nice letter to a friend of mine, actually regarding Lovecraft, and I kind of felt like I was in a Lovecraft writing, and then I sent him something, and then when I got nothing back, and I'm like, you fucking dick. And I thought, man, that was a really, piece of, like, that was a wonderful letter. And I feel like, I put a lot of work into it. It was amazing. And it literally just, I might as well have just thrown it into the, you talked about motivation. It's like, well, why the fuck do I even write to my friends?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a little bit, but I mean, at the same time, because like I know that a specific friend, I know they're not exactly going through like a good time, so
Oh,
um,
right.
I cannot really expect that. So you what if I didn't know though? Like at the same time,
True.
like I could be just coming up with things out of my ass more than out of my brain,
Right.
and
Well,
yeah, I would be judging them too harshly, let's say, which I probably do.
well, I came up with a weird notion. I guess I'll run it by you and you. Um, and I was talking to my little brother last night, actually, and we were talking about sort of relation people communicate with each other and how friendships are formed. And I feel like maybe back in the day, so this is the comparison that I made. So back so many channels, there were so many TV shows. That's what everybody watched. Maybe I didn't love everything on television or all the music videos on MTV, but that's the radio, and that was the music that was on, right? We were all exposed to the same shit, but now in the world where everything is Spotify and YouTube Music and on music, and we all have our own specific playlists of the shit we listen to. So it almost like the people at our lives are like our YouTube videos and our like Spotify like subscriptions. It's like I don't want to listen to everything. I don't want to talk to everyone. I like I have a friend that I like to talk about video games with, and so when I talk to him, that's what I'm talking about. So I turn on my my mental channel, talk to this friend about this thing. I write a buddy a letter in Lovecraftian style to him about Lovecraft. He just might not be in the mood to have that kind of a conversation at that particular moment. And he's like, nope, I'm not interested in that channel right now. Click, and he just doesn't respond. It's not personal. It's just like, that's not what he's in the mood for. Just on some random Saturday, he gets some about whether Lovecraft is actually lazy for always describing things as beyond description or not. And he's like, I don't give a fuck about that right now, which I get because I live into his life
Yeah,
expecting him to be in the conversation mode with me when, you know, he probably just woke up and had to feed his kid or, right, right. But yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I mean, what would you say that people are sort of more like, oh, I like this person for this. Oh, I want to go out and get drunk, so I'm going to call. Or do you think that's like total bullshit?
No, I think it is because like I I have friends that I like in my real life. Technically, I have like few friends, like 4 or 5, I think, if you wanna count them. Um, and like there's one guy who technically works in the shop in the neighborhood
Mhm.
and the what do you call it? In the store here, and it's like the only topics that I talk about with him is mostly things um like things that are like what do you call it? Mathematic related and
Okay.
like study related.
Yeah.
I'm talking
So
about things that I want to learn.
sure.
What do I know? What does he know? You know,
Right.
he sometimes asks me for like things that he maybe could find useful for his like career because he like studied mathematics
Okay.
and yeah.
So you two speak the
So
same
sometimes he asks me
language.
about some topics in one way or another, kind of.
Yeah.
We can speak the same language, yeah, but it's not the only language we both speak if you think about it, because
Exactly. Totally.
he doesn't only talk with me, he also talks with everyone in the neighborhood. And
Right. Right. But
there's
that's the
people who talk
language
about
you two
politics, there's
are
people who
able to
talk
speak.
about uh
Yeah.
yeah, there's people who talk about politics, people talk about just sport related things, games and such.
Right.
And yeah, I definitely go to talk to specific people about some specific topic because I find it that those specific people are the best to talk about this topic with.
Right. Yep.
It's like, I chose to ask you technically to do the podcast with, 'cause I think you're probably the best one that I could do that with.
Right. Totally. And like, whereas I love movies, I'm never like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to have like a conversation with you, but I can have myriad conversations with you, but I'm just like, okay, well, I'll just not talk about movies with Dark.
I'm
And
not
that's
really good
okay.
with movies, I'm sorry.
No, no,
To be
it's fine.
fair, I've been watching movies like once every few days with like people on Discord when we have nothing to talk
Mm,
about. Which
right on.
sometimes I'm like, I wish I could have you there and we could like be talking.
Oh, right.
Uh,
We can, we
yeah, it
can
would be
talk
fun.
shit
It would
on
be
the
fun,
channel.
but yeah, I mean, we could talk about anything. If we want to talk about something specific, we could like do a specific like go on a private call or go on a different channel where like no one else is there.
Totally. Well,
Which
this is
again, that's the
VR
only
app.
reason I wanted to invite you there.
Well, I
Go
appreciate the
ahead.
thought. There's this VR app called Big Screen, and basically kind of like VR chat. There's maybe like 12 different movie theater, um, and, and I can really take movies from my hard drive and put them on the screen in that movie theater, and then I can invite
Yeah,
friends place. So then we sort of inhabit the same virtual space we are now, and then watch a movie,
that's
kind of like
cool.
that. I mean, there's a couple VR chat worlds with movies. We've done that before, but an app for that. And I've always wanted to get like people together and like, let's watch this, or let's do that, or let's have a
Uh,
fucking Star Trek: The Next
well,
Generation marathon. And but it has VR, so I just don't.
so yeah, we technically are doing like that's the thing. We technically are start like doing that about for a few weeks now. So
Pardon me.
basically, there's a vote, and everyone votes on which movie they wanna
Oh,
watch,
okay.
and we all go on like on one specific voice channel, and someone will stream that movie.
Is that Discord like one of those big like giga like Discord channels where there's thousands of people? Or
Mm. No, you will get a maximum of 10 people or 12 people in
okay,
one place,
okay,
so it wouldn't be that big. But I guess I see the idea of also the problem with doing it in Discord is some people sometimes like to talk and some people don't like other people talking.
Right.
So it's a bit hard.
That's
Like
why
if you
watching a movie
can
with
put the
people
people who
is
want to talk on one place and people who don't
right.
want to talk in another place. But yeah, it's difficult. But it's fun. I enjoy the mostly I enjoy the company. I enjoy the jokes.
Right.
So yeah,
Right. Well, because that's what I've always
I
thought watching. I love watching movies, but like going on a date, like the date, dinner and a movie, like trope, if you will, is so common. But I always think, why the fuck am I going to take to a movie on a date when we're staring at a screen and not talking to each other?
yeah
Like that's the worst date ever. I mean, unless, like you said, unless we
yeah
don't have anything to say, movie. But otherwise, like let's fucking talk,
yeah
man. You know?
yeah. I don't know. I haven't done dating, bro. I have no idea how that works. But I
Well,
always thought, why would you go on a movie though? Like,
right.
it's just you watching something, and you cannot exactly see how the other person is reacting because, like, they're technically a little bit outside of your field of view, and you're
Right.
also focusing on the screen, so you wouldn't even notice how they react. So
And
that is one problem.
if you're in a real life theater situation, you got people behind you, in front of you, and to your left and to your right. You also don't want to talk because you'll be
Yeah,
rude to the audience. So
yeah,
I mean, watching movies at home or online are great because it's great because you can pause it, go to the bathroom, and all that shit. But I do happen to like film, so maybe if I wanted, I guess like a male version of shit that for me would be like, let's watch this really thought-provoking like movie, then shit
mm-hmm.
about the concept or the notions after, and then maybe if you're a dumb bitch or whatever, I know that I can't have a conversation.
You can't.
But
Uh,
I'm not really into dating either, so this is all fucking like theory
yeah,
anyway.
fair enough. Yeah, I also kind of. The second thing that I think I'm starting to actually understand. It's not something I don't know. But like I think knowing something and actually understanding it is two different things.
Indeed.
And I don't know. It's like I've been writing about like the whole like mental roller coaster that I've been going the past 2 months. I'm thinking that probably just how fucking life is, in general. It doesn't matter who you are and what you do.
Right.
Like, that's how it actually is. It's not that I'm miserable because things are bad, it's just I'm miserable because, well, I mean, life is kind of about suffering
Right.
and the struggle. Solving
Have you got
problems,
listen?
achieving goals.
Yep.
Go ahead.
That's all it is. Because if there's no struggle, we're dead.
Well, I mean,
Yep.
if there's no struggle, you'd be bored to death. Yeah, like
That too.
you would start making problems. It's like this is like the biggest criticism when it comes to people saying that you should, like, we need socialist government technically.
Right.
It's like if you take care of everything that people has to think of, then people have nothing to do.
Right. If you're so
A lot of
comfortable,
people
you're
will
just going to
literally have
invent
nothing to
problems.
do.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, people might say, well, I mean, people can busy themselves with creativeness, but a lot of people are not creative.
Right.
I can tell you for sure that I'm not creative. I'm definitely not creative. I know how to work with, like, if you give me, let's say, if you give me enough equipment and you give me a complex enough machine, I'll eventually, I don't know how long it would take me. I'm not that fucking smart, but eventually I'll like take every piece apart and put it back in as it's supposed to be, and like try to understand how it works. That's
Right.
for me how I work.
Sure.
If you tell me to write a fucking story, I would die before I write like maybe 2 lines. I cannot do that. I'm really shit at
well,
creative things.
well,
Maybe drawing a little bit. Well, I used to, but not really good at it. Wasn't really good at it.
I think creativity is such a
And
relative term, though. Like you talking about writing, or creating a website. I think those are degrees of creativity because there's the whole thing like write what not into like
mm,
fantasy or elves magic. You don't write fantasy. Write like autobiographical things of your feelings and your emotions because those things, and that's fine.
mm,
But I also think, like you talked about, people take something apart and put it back together again. I think while that might on the surface be creative, I think that base of knowledge that you learn from doing those things later on down the road, you have no understanding. We were talking about then all of a sudden something else, you might learn something else on down the road, and all of a sudden those two things come together. Oh, and then you might be able to, two different items in a video game, put them together, and then make something completely different and new that didn't exist before. And well, it really wasn't that creative. I just took two things and put them together.
mm,
But other people are like, "Holy shit, that was mind blowing." So you never know.
maybe. Also, I just noticed that. You seem to be lagging a little bit. Are you like using the Wi-Fi thingy for the headset? Because if you're far away, I think you're. I missed a little bit of what you said, but I pieced it back together, so I know what you
Oh,
said,
okay.
kinda.
Okay.
But you're
Sure.
lagging a little bit, so just in case.
Instant lag, or was it just like a spike?
Well, what happens is like as you're talking, it's like a little chunk of what you say, of like one word or two words are gone,
Oh, really?
and I try to piece them together. So, yeah, yeah.
Oh.
So that's
There,
what's been
there's,
happening.
there's like a crazy snowstorm going on right now. So, and it's like windy, so I
Yeah,
don't
that is
know
understandable.
if that has anything to do with my internet connection. But I have Google
Probably,
Fiber,
probably.
but who knows? Might be.
Oh, it's a fiber thing. If it's a
Yeah.
fiber thing, it shouldn't technically. I don't know how it works though. Like it's different everywhere. So
Yeah.
what was I gonna say?
Creativity, writing.
Yeah,
Um,
I I mean maybe depends. I mean there's degrees of it, but like I think the main thing about creativity is doing something that no one else does, and like something actually new in one way or another.
sure.
So kind of out of the norm. It's a new idea. You don't exactly know if anyone will like it or not because it could be a good idea
Innovation.
or it could be a like horrible idea. Yeah,
Absolutely. Totally.
but I guess it's probably different from well maybe like people who invent things. I guess are technically creative.
Well, they
So
are
if I
creating
come
things.
up with something new, yeah. So technically I would have some degree of creativity.
But I wonder, um,
Maybe.
Mabel, if even if you create things and then you come to say I create something like, oh, I created a bag of Doritos, right? I'm like, oh my god, these are amazing, and I'm those, and then I come to find out that Doritos actually already exist. I'm gonna be like, damn, I didn't innovate. I did at least for myself create. I think it's like something that you just do, whether it's new and innovative. I guess you find out,
Mm.
but I think doing it
Yeah.
consistently is probably the key. Because I don't think one person just wakes up one day and is like, "Oh, this is a brilliant idea," and then they have, they invent it, and then they have millions of dollars. People probably build all the time with
Oh yeah,
garbage,
definitely.
and then one thing, like a month before they die, it was like the best plan ever, and then it changes the world.
Yeah, who knows?
So it's like just
You don't
doing
know.
it,
Yeah, it is a
and
high
you
risk,
build.
high reward like
Indeed. Hmm.
strategy. But yeah, I don't know.
And I think those people are probably
I'm.
making shit because they enjoy
Mm.
it. It's not like I need to build something
Oh,
because I
definitely.
make. They're just like I
Yeah.
like doing this shit, and it's like, oh, this is a great idea. Maybe.
Yeah. I think that's how it usually works. I mean, I don't think I think sometimes like most of the time you also don't exactly know what the end product would be like. Let's call it, if we call that product, the end result. Like you would
Sure.
have an image, but the image is not exactly complete, and you kind of go with the flow of
Hmm.
the process.
You might end up somewhere completely different than you had originally planned, and it's even better idea than you
Yeah,
had achieved. Yeah.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think that's the fun. It's like writing a book and not knowing how it ends, but you find out as, the story progresses. So the writer in turn becomes the
yeah.
reader as well. Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's what I like about writing my own diary. But if I try to think, and because I remember like thinking I kind of want to try play Dungeons and Dragons, and like we play it in the I don't we play it on the Discord server, and every time I'm like, what do I need to do to be able to play, and like just write a character or like a story or something for a character. I'm like, fuck, no, I
Right,
cannot do that.
right.
I just cannot. So there's at some degree I just cut off. But like the thing with my diary is there's what actually happened. There's how you think it happened, and there's
Right,
how you know it happened,
right.
and there's your thoughts about it. And all of these things like try to, I guess, go over each other if you only
Right.
thinking about it. But once you write it down, they kind of align, and it's not very chaotic. It's not very chaotic, and you can actually look at, you can have your own view of what did you think of it, and your own view how you thought it went, and then how it actually went.
Well, it's kind of like they
It's
say,
weird.
we write our own story. So yeah, whether it happened
Yeah,
like this or whether it happened like that, like, well, if I think or feel that it happened like this, that's how it happened.
yeah.
Yep, yep.
There
It's all
is this weird
our
like
our mental
process.
virtual
What? Go ahead.
reality. No, no, that's it. I'm sorry.
This is like this weird process of like me thinking of a specific situation. I'm like, that's how it happened. But then in my brain, it's like, nah, it's not what happened. Um, if you remember well, like if I like think about it a bit more, that is how it actually happened. But that's just how you
Right.
think about it, and you probably exaggerated something here or there.
Oh,
And I'm
sure.
like, okay, I can notice that. I'm like, maybe that's just how I like think about the situation or the event. Like, write it down. I try to write it down, like my thought on what happened,
Right.
and that's the journal that I'm doing. So
Well, it's
it's
sort
an
of like
interesting experience because go ahead.
it's like the difference between like an autobiography, a biography, and a memoir. Like if you're writing, like
Mm,
it's gonna be exactly what you're talking about. It's going to be not exactly reality, but sort of a heightened. I'm going to dress up the story just a smidge, just to make it more appealing to a reader, but yet the same
yeah.
experience basically conveyed to the reader. It's just not going to be so
Mm,
fucking boring as, say, like my life or your life might actually be.
yeah. I mean, life can be boring sometimes. To be fair, I get days where like I didn't do anything today, and like I'm just kind of being miserable. And like, do I write this down or just leave it? And that's like around the days that I don't write. That's what
Mhm.
usually happens. It's like I'm either bored as hell and I done nothing, or I'm miserable as hell and I done nothing. And that's usually the days I don't write because like I stay up probably playing video games or talking to people on
Right
Discord,
on.
and what ends up happening is like, oh shit, it's 2 a.m. Well, it's too late to write my diary now because it's probably gonna take me an hour. I'll just do it tomorrow.
Right.
And I don't do it tomorrow. So
Well, talking to people is actually doing something. So you might feel like you didn't actually do something, but by engaging with humans, you're getting the whole human experience, learning something, and so
mm,
maybe you didn't actually like create or you weren't productive, because being productive is such like a canon. Um, so sometimes I think that's okay. Well, because I've sort of been like, I think over about 4 or 5 days, I've been on a media fast. I just didn't listen to like watch television. I'm sick of advertisements constantly, and so I got bored, really bored. But then that's when I asked to some friends. I
yeah,
was like, well, because when other people's opinions or thoughts about how I should live or people should be living or what there's someone else's interpretation of things going on in the world, I shut it all off so that I could think my own thoughts. And I find
yeah.
when I'm not doing that's when I tend to get I'm more creative or I put more things down on paper or on
Mm,
screen because
yeah, but
there is no distraction
go
in
ahead.
me.
Well, I mean, I think that is the thing. Like at the same time, uh, I've been thinking about it like for I don't know a few days, but I don't think I got my brain on it real. But when you do that, yes, you focus on the productive side of things, but you will miss on the social side of things a little bit
Yep.
because you're shutting off the other like side to focus on one. Let's say, and I don't know. I mean, sometimes like the things that people say of because everyone is guilty of it. It's like everyone should and fill the blank. It's weird because at the same when I think about it, sometimes I'm like, well, this is right, but also wrong at the same time.
Right.
And I think that applies to also even if you look at it from your own views in one way or another. It has some like it has value to it, but at the same time, it takes something from you. Um, like it has the positive and negative side of it.
Well, yeah,
I
there's the
wouldn't
give
say I
and the
wouldn't say
take.
like people. Yeah, I wouldn't say like, and that's a new thing that I'm still trying to do. It's like try to listen to people even if it seemed boring. Like actually listen to them.
Right.
Um, and like at least let them talk until like they're comfortable enough and you're comfortable enough that you can you can have the discussion about a specific thing.
Right.
I think that's where like that's where like a lot of people think I'm trying to debate more than an I don't know if that is a right way to say it, like debate more than an argue, because I'm not trying to win. I'm not trying to prove that I'm right and they're wrong. I'm just trying to discuss the idea, let's
Yeah.
say,
You're just having a
like one idea
conversation.
or a different one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Well, it's
I
like
like
when I
I
was
might be
talking.
wrong at some points. They might be wrong at some points, but we all there always will be specific points where both of us are kind of right or
Right.
wrong.
Well,
Like
and I
yeah,
think a lot, and I'm judging you based on my perception of you. At least where you and I sort like
definitely.
our conversation sort of around. I don't know that there was like a definite right or wrong, perspective. So like when I was talking to my brother last night, and he might have a notion about, say, the difference between purpose or meaning. And, well, awesome, that's really cool.
Hmm.
This is how I feel about it. I'm not like saying you're wrong, but this is my view, and then
Yeah.
we can and then make a new bit of perspective from him, and then maybe he learns a new perspective from me. And I mean, I think that's the
Yeah.
value of a conversation. Absolutely. But I
Although
think it's
sometimes
those
it's
people
tough
that
though.
totally, totally.
It's like some people, a lot of people. I don't want to say a lot, but some people would take it that once you say some different idea or some different take to an idea, you're just opposing them in one way or another because you know the whole identity thing with your ideas and thoughts and values.
Right.
and I think they get things mixed when you're just trying to talk. And I
Right.
think that's the hard part for me. It's like sometimes
Well, I think
when do I know if people think I'm attacking them or not? It's like usually when I say something that is different to their view on one thing, and the reaction is more of a defensive one more than just, well, that's just how things are way of explaining things.
no, I agree. Well, I think Malice. Well, I know Michael Malice said it, but I'm going to bastardize a quote of his, and he was like, "I often say things in an exaggerated or in an offensive way, even if it's not offensive, just to see how the other person reacts. And if they can't take a joke or they can't handle opposing views, and they're going to get a defensive, fly off the handle, I now know that I can't have a conversation with them. And I love that,
Yeah, I
because I
think
suffer like insufferable people for the longest time, and everything you say that doesn't align with their ideology, and it's like, okay, well, we're just not going to hang out because now my values, I like to have conversations and question the views of the world, knowledge, history, whatever. And if I can with any person about any of these things, I guess we're just not going to chat because that's where I like to
yeah.
live, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like the whole thing of, what do you know as a person, versus what are the things that happen that we as a total of humanity might not even know it affect us
Mm-hmm.
in one way or another, whether it's socially or um, like in terms of productivity and such. Like, what do you win on versus what do you lose on?
Right.
And what also happened in everyone's life is like people are complicated, and
Right. What do we actually know if we know?
yeah,
You know.
yeah. I mean, we don't exactly. I don't think we exactly for sure know. I mean, even when you look at everything that we have now, when you're studying something in the STEM field, there's always the word that you will keep hearing, theory, which is, we're not 100% sure it's right, but so far it seems to agree to what happens when we apply it to
Right.
an activity.
Right.
But it takes a little bit of faith in it. So you have
Absolutely.
to have that little bit of faith in that idea or principle or whatever it is.
Well,
No matter how sure you are, you can be never 100% sure.
like an uncontroversial example of that would be like the electric theory. You know, electricians know how electricity flows and oscillates and does all of the shit. So
Yeah,
we have built massive systems, based on like the electromagnetic fields of electricity. But why it does that, we don't really know. But it behaves
yeah,
in such a fashion that we've been able to build based on those theories. Yeah.
yeah. We
Yeah.
understand it enough to use it effectively,
Yes.
somewhat effectively, but we don't 100% know what happens.
Right.
Because you'll always have that part of that you will not know about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also applies to people because you never
Exactly.
actually know what people went through in their lives. So
Mm-hmm.
even if you always oppose the idea, it's still just as much a human as you are. And even if you think they are destructive, you can easily be as destructive as you think they are, or probably even worse,
Right.
just based on the fact that you both at least the same type of creature, let's call it this way.
And then in those instances, I often wonder, am I just projecting my self-destructive nature onto somebody else because that's my
Oh,
experience? And so
probably.
I'm just putting myself into building a theory on my own egocentric fucking worldview.
I mean,
Right.
isn't that where like most anxieties come from? It's like you know what your mistakes are,
Right.
but you don't exactly know what other people's mistake. Like you know every
Right.
fucking mistake you made, which
Ugh,
is
I
like
know, right?
fuck. You know, you have to think of them, all of them.
Oh, yeah, you gotta live with that shit forever. Well, until you don't. But yeah.
Ever said something in a crowded place and everyone just stopped talking and look at you?
Mm,
I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You might think that you're probably the only one have done that, but probably everyone in there had have done something similar at some point.
That
But you don't
record
really know, and you
screech.
don't exactly consider it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And some
and I
people
think
might
that's
be
what like
really
generates
embarrassed by that
anxiety.
situation, and other people might not be embarrassed by, and then
Oh
that
yeah,
also differs on what experience you've had in the past. I have a really loud laugh, and I'm to a restaurant,
oh
you know,
same.
and laughing, and everybody like looking over, or being with other loud people and everybody stares, or people being like, shut up, if it's really funny, right? And so over time, I've just gotten used to like, the looks, and now I just don't mind. And sometimes I might walk into
Yeah.
somewhere and pontificate about a topic, I might talk about taboo subjects at work, um,
Oh yeah.
with like one or two people, but sometimes I might even find that louder than it needs to be because I want everybody to hear what I have to fucking say
Yeah.
because I'm that like
Fucking
egocentric cunt.
weirdo.
Right. Well, because I'm just like, well, he
I mean, we.
talks about these things at work and people need to hear these things from real people and not
Yeah.
the internet. So I try to be
Oh yeah.
that guy.
I mean, at our core, like we all a little bit egocentric in one way or another because, well, we only know our own experiences,
Right. But
and
when people just talk about football
we
or
think they're
the
very
sale
valuable.
going on at the store, they're not even talking they're talking about external things that aren't even them. Or things that
Hmm.
literally affect them. Right. Um, and so I'm like, no, talking about, you know, real stuff
Yeah,
here,
I
guys.
mean, but but what do we know? Like, we could be just as stupid to them as we might think that they're stupid to us. We
Oh,
might not get it, you know.
absolutely, absolutely. But I guess
So
I'm
you
sort
can
of
never be sure of
fishing
it.
for well, I'm fishing for a conversation. Like I want it's like when I'm
Oh,
driving
same.
down
Yeah.
like if I'm driving down the road and I'm listening to like a particularly amazing piece of music and my windows are down and then some to me, I always have this moment where I'm like, "Oh, ooh, they're hot." Like maybe they'll be like, "Oh my God, what is that you're listening to? That's wonderful." Like a little then I could pass
Mm-hmm.
on a little bit of knowledge or, if I'm at work and I say something bombastic that either goes with what they believe or against what they believe, we can have a discussion about it. Not talk about pharmaceuticals. Let's
Yeah.
not talk about football. Let's have like an interesting discussion while we're doing our mindless jobs, people. Um,
Yeah.
but I guess maybe
I
a
mean, but
virtue
there's
signal.
it kind of is because like there's a lot of people who just you know they don't want to bother with that. They like there's a lot of people who I would imagine there is a lot of people who just want to go do the job and go back home or like
Right.
go to whatever community they like and just do all the talking and do all that over there. They don't want to know their colleagues or something, which I'm a little bit guilty of that to be honest, because I stay away from talking with my classmates and such. Um, and it's just like even if they try to talk to me, I'm like, nah, I don't want to bother. If I ask them, like, if I talk to them, I just ask them about like few things that I just kind of want to know, and it's mostly about the subject like that we're taking currently. So I'm
It's
guilty of
just like
that one,
people.
even though I did almost the opposite
Right.
a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm guilty of that because I'm like sometimes I see myself. I'm like, yeah, these classmates are stupid or something. But like, what do I know at the same time? Yeah.
Right.
I
Well,
just
like
want
you
to be
say,
done
they
with
could think
the
you're stupid
university.
too. Right.
Or they probably do, who knows? I mean, they probably think I'm a loser, who knows? Like, in some classes, I'm literally the embodiment of, like, the nerd guy of the class. Some classes, I think sometimes that I know more than the teacher that is teaching me, which actually kind of pisses me off a little bit.
Sure. Right.
But it's weird.
Well, I've
But I
heard
think,
a
yeah, it
lot
goes
of
both sides.
rhetoric.
It's like, go ahead.
Oh, well, I have heard a lot of rhetoric, especially in the coding reality, that universities are super behind. Like, teacher learned maybe 10
Oh
or
yeah.
15 years ago is so outdated that it's like, why am I spending thousands of dollars for you to teach me this shit? Like C plus? Like, what the hell? I'm on like C sharp or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not a coder, but yeah, that can be difficult.
It's a little bit behind in terms of the things that they teach you. It seems like you don't really learn much, but I mean, it's good for someone who's going there as an entry level, but I don't think it takes you anywhere after the entry level. Sometimes it does, depends on what university you go to, but like I can tell you for sure that the ones that we take in my university are like very outdated. We spend way more time on other subjects that, to be honest, we don't really need to spend time on. And we also, like, we don't have enough time on the subjects that are important to learn. So there's things that you learn from. There's some nice thing that you can learn from. It's just
Right.
it's just a mess when it comes to the actual important things.
Sure. Well, that's why I've
So
always enjoyed like physical classrooms because of those like diverging like paths and discussions. Because if you do, it is
yeah.
very, this is what we're talking about, this is all you get, you know, but that, oh, when somebody asks a question and then somebody goes off on a tangent and then it's okay, oh, derailed there for a minute, now let's come back. But then you get those other people in the class, I think that you might resonate more with, where they'll be like, is this on the test? Or test, like, I don't want to take fucking notes on this bullshit if this isn't like what we're being tested on.
Oh
Like,
no, I'm not that kind of guy. So I tried to actually like talk about few topics in like one lecture that I kind of like the teacher, like um they were fine, did the job fine. It's like what I didn't enjoy is like every time I try to talk about something that is a little bit like on the subject but like outside of the main focus of the course, they will
mhm.
always redirect it back to the course because they want to finish the course because there isn't
Oh,
enough
right,
time,
right,
which is annoying, but at the same time they just try and do the job.
right, right. No, I get that.
So once I realized I cannot get that, I was like, yeah, fine, it is
Right,
what it is.
right,
But yeah, I mean, it will always go like two sides. It's like probably for that teacher, he could be like, that kid again is like trying to just talk about some bullshit, and I'm trying to finish the subject.
right. Well, it's like if I go to a work
Yeah.
meeting or it's something about like something really boring about insurance policies or whatever, you know, and then, you know, they'll walk for 30 minutes about like all of the bullshit, right? And then she'll be like, any questions? And I'm like just staring at everybody in the room like nobody ask anything because I'm so done with this meeting right now, you know? And then somebody's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, fuck. You know? Like,
You have to wait through the bullshit, but
mm-hmm.
you know, it will always go two ways because like just as much as, you think they are being a piece of shit, they think that you are being a piece of shit.
Exactly.
I think you
Right.
just have to get like I think like somehow we need to learn how to get past that, like maneuver around it.
Right. Just accept it because it's beyond our control. So there's no point in getting upset about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we might be wrong about a lot of things, so you know,
Oh, of course. I
maybe we
just
need
don't
to
give
take
a
it a
shit
little bit
about.
easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because philosophy classes that I took in university were like, I mean, they were just, we would talk about, like, we would read the philosophical arguments from the book or whatever, and then the classes just turned into discussions. Or when I took an ethics
Mm.
course, the professor with, these concepts of ethics, and then he would release those notions onto the class, and then we would debate amongst each other because I never knew what the professor himself felt was quote unquote ethical, because I mean there really is no real right or wrong. It's just, those are we have the questions, not the answers.
Yeah.
Um, and then that shit is real.
Well, I mean, you cannot exactly know. Sometimes you just cannot exactly know because, again, situations can get too complicated,
Yep.
and
Yep.
like you end up with a fucked up situation. It's like, what the fuck do we do with this?
Right. Well, it's like the what's that thought experiment where there's a runaway rail car, like a train car, and rail switch to change
Oh
tracks,
yeah.
and where it can either kill, you can either save like the one person that's going to get killed, or save the five people, the train car.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what do you do? Like, and then it becomes like a numbers game, and it's just like, ah, shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's weird. I mean, here's the weird things that come out. It's like we want to put values on things, right? But I mean, at first, that's what I noticed with people who like to always depend on rationality. A lot of time, it's like, okay, um, what if that one person was the most important person in your life?
Right, right. Or what if they were an
Then,
old
like,
person?
suddenly the
Or what
fucking
if they were a
scale
baby?
takes a big hit. Yeah,
Right,
I mean,
right.
like they could go with the number value, but I mean, do you know what that one person maybe that one person could be more important in the future than the other
Right,
five, or the other way around? How do you know? You just don't.
right, exactly.
And for me, like, if someone asked me that question, I'd probably say I wouldn't do anything because I just don't know.
Right, right.
The best way to not lose is not to play.
I mean,
Like
that's an
that one situation is probably almost impossible to happen. So
well,
it
I mean,
has to
it's a
be a
thought
what if.
experiment. Yeah,
But
but
it does happen in a sense when you make decisions about, who you want to be your friend and who you want to be nice to and like asshole to, or like just be mad at.
but
I think that's
also
where it actually happens.
but also not making a decision is a decision. So you also call.
Hey, no, fuck you.
Yeah, so
That's bullshit.
yeah, totally. I mean, it's just like when you play a video game where you have like responses, and if you don't respond, the non-response is considered like like the algorithm of the game will take that into consideration.
Yeah,
It's pretty
yeah.
interesting.
It's
But yeah,
weird because like I don't know what to do in that situation. It's like, well, how the fuck do I know that
right.
five is more important than that one person,
And if you
or that
chose
one
wrong,
person
you
is more
might get
important
in a
than
lot of
that
trouble.
five?
Like
I
Dirk
mean,
killed 5 people today.
let
Now
that
he's gonna
alone.
spend.
I have to also like I have to keep that decision always in mind. I have to keep that mistake, if it was a mistake, in my mind the whole time.
Mhm.
That the rest of the time I'm alive.
Yep.
It's I don't know if that situation ever happened. but
Well, I
I
guess
don't think it is possible to happen.
well, right. I mean,
Well, I
it's
mean,
an
well, it probably
example of
did. Let's be
extremes.
honest.
Well, it's like the example I hear off is Nazi Germany. Like when the normal people in Nazi Germany saw what was happening and they didn't do anything, are they just as standing up and rising up and speaking out? They were sure afraid of the repercussions, but because they didn't do
Oh yeah,
anything, they're just as guilty as the people like burning Jews. So it's
yeah. I mean, you have to think of it at the same time, like from their view. Like, go
sure,
ahead and ask anyone. Like right now, it's like, are you really? Are you saying that you would put all your family to risk of all of them being killed, not just you, so you can save one or two persons? Like,
right,
are you really going to do that? Like, do you think you're actually a good person? I don't think a lot of people would do that.
right,
I don't think I would do that.
right. I don't know
That's
what I
why,
would do.
I say I don't think anyone is better than the Nazis. To be honest,
Well, I don't know that
no one
anybody
is.
knows what
Like,
they would do. And I think that's what's so crazy about it is because people always say, well, I wouldn't do that, or I would do this. And it's like, do you really know until you're in that situation? Because that's,
you don't.
you know,
The
until
you
you're in the
actually
fire.
know. It's just you ignore it. Actually, that's the thing. It's like you know, but
Mm,
you ignore it. I think you know, like when you always will view yourself as the good guy, right?
mm-hmm,
While at the same time, you will always try to cut corners. There's a lot of people that I know like that, and I'm friends with them. I'm like, you're not any better off than any of the bad, like the worst people that I've seen, because I think the only difference between you and them is the fact that they at least know they are doing that consciously and not making excuses while they're making it,
right,
as it's not them, or they deserve, like, it's just a small mistake. Who No one's gonna get damaged from. What will happen if you just you know picked something up from the store and didn't pay for it? It's fine. You haven't done anything bad really. It's just probably the cheapest item, but it's still
right,
bad. It's still very bad
right,
action. And the fact that you give yourself, a pass on that is also, in my
right,
opinion, a very an indication that you're not exactly well put together. You know, and none of us is actually is very well put together. It's like the expression, not expression, but like the example that from Alan Watts. You know, on the outside we're all ordered, and but in the inside there's all sorts of shortcuts and things just like entangled with each other. It's like kind of how you look. When you buy something, like when you buy one of the cheap computers, uh, it looks fine on the outside, but once you open it, there's like cables entangled with each other
right,
all around.
right.
And that's probably
Yeah,
how everyone is. It's technically how everyone is. But like, I think the problem comes from once you believe that you're what the outside is exactly the same as the inside, which it is not.
right, right. Not at all. Hmm.
And usually the worst people are who like will always give themselves a pass and still call themselves good people.
Right, right.
That's
Because they
technically the
just,
worst, because
I agree.
on a whim they will make the worst decision.
Hmm. Well, it was because of this, this happened to me, this happened to me, or because of this,
Yeah,
or my dad 20 years ago. It's like, what? No, like, you made the decision. But it's almost kind of
yeah,
like,
yeah. You're making excuses though.
yeah,
You're passing the
uh,
buck in a one way or another.
but they don't even know that they're making excuses. It's literally just how they view themselves in reality, which is wild, you know, because they're not consciously making excuses. It's just automatic. Well, like you were talking about writing in your journal, maybe this is how it
Yeah.
happened, maybe this is how I think that it happened, and you're aware of that like dichotomy or that duality. But some people go straight to the fiction, and then
Yeah.
that's how their history is written, and it's interesting.
Well, I mean, you don't want to be that bad person, right?
Right, right.
So you will try to take the delusional way of looking at
Yep.
things, even though it
And protect
actually makes
yourself.
things worse and worse and worse.
I think so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's ironic because you try to protect yourself, but you're technically just harming yourself even more. It's
Agree.
like when you try to fix a lie with another lie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's not how it works.
And while my personal reality is different than your personal reality and else in the world, I do try to, yeah, take into account their reality so that we are inhabiting as much of the same reality as possible, but constantly deluding yourself with, fiction, just to
Yeah,
protect your like psyche or your ego. Like, yeah, all building fiction upon fiction upon fiction, all of a sudden,
yeah,
you're not even living in the same world as anybody else. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
those
Definitely not.
yeah. And
I'm a
there's
good
like
person. Everyone around me is bad.
why
I'm like,
is everyone so crazy? It's
no.
like they're not. Like you're fucked up.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. And I
uh,
think that's like so far as I got in that book, like the brief history of thought, and when they talked
okay.
about, you know, the thing that most philosophers didn't like about religion is humility. And like I think that humility aspect is actually essential if
I
you don't want
agree.
to go crazy. Because most religions tell you that you're kind of sinful, and it is true because
Mm-hmm.
you're probably gonna do something bad eventually, and you're gonna give yourself a pass and still call yourself a good person,
Mm-hmm.
but you're
Mm-hmm.
not. And
That's
you know you have to always keep in mind that you are in fact actually very sinful.
right. That's one of the things about the Catholic faith that I always found was interesting. Are you familiar with confession?
I think I know the idea. Yeah,
So there's like a box that you like, there's like the thing in the middle and the priest sits on screen and then you go in, it's like, bless me, Father, for I have sinned, blah, blah, blah. And you literally tell your sins to the priest
yeah,
who is, like, he speaks to God and then, he's like, well, do 10 Hail Marys and like 5 Our Fathers and you will be absolved of these sins. And confession as a kid, but but I mean, I'm not Catholic, but anymore, but I always thought it was interesting that in that faith, you literally had to admit to someone and to God
yeah. I mean, that's the
instead
thing.
of being like, yeah, I'm good. It wasn't that big of a deal. Like you're
Yeah.
absolving yourself, which is so yeah, you have to own up to your shit to somebody else, and then if then they say
Well,
God
mostly to
forgave you.
yourself if you think about it too.
Absolutely.
Because if you keep ignoring it, you're still a good person.
If you do,
And that's the thing.
it's like
Like
writing it down. If
that
you don't
exists
speak it,
also.
it's not real.
If you
Yeah,
look at it, in every religion almost that also will exist. It's like we have I don't know if you call it. It's not a saying. It's kind of like a prayer. It's within. It's like one of the prayers that we do. Is like it's like you ask for forgiveness for God because you've been sinful.
yeah,
Like you repeat that all the time. I remember. I know that my mom does that every day technically. And I'm like, I always think about it. I'm like, why is the idea of it like? Because I thought about it for too long. I'm like, why is the idea of what if you haven't done anything? Well, have you really not done anything? I'm like, well, I could take the example of myself. I've done pretty bad shit before. I've I remember lying sometimes, even though I try my best not to lie.
sure.
Um, I picked a lot of fights with my siblings. I hit my siblings. Sometimes, you know, sometimes I have the idea of revenge, which is, exactly the most moral thing to do.
Sure.
I'm probably as messed up as anyone else in the world that have ever lived.
Absolutely.
And it's true. And that's why you keep saying it. It's like, so you don't forget that you are.
Well, right. And I think confronting yourself with yourself is the key. If you know that you've been a shit, at least you recognize that you were
Yeah.
a shit instead of just being like, I wasn't a shit, I was completely fucking justified. And it's like that's the danger.
Yeah, yeah. I guarantee you, like, at least every person have probably walked up out of situation and thought, like, I could have been an asshole there. I probably deserve being beaten there.
Right.
And it's true,
Right.
because that
Right.
has happened.
But
And what about the things that you haven't realized, though?
well, totally.
So yeah, you've
But
been sinful before. You've
but
always,
then there's those other
probably you
people,
always are.
about those other people that are just either pretend to be oblivious just to absolve themselves. Well, it's like we've talked about the victim, like they're like everything is like now, and somebody might be
Oh
an
yeah,
asshole, but then they'll just claim that, well, they were being like this and I was being victimized, so I was
yeah,
therefore justified in this way. And it's like, maybe you were, maybe you weren't, but at least admit that you were kind of a shit. And then at what level
yeah. I mean,
do you feel bad about a thing? Like when I use antibacterial soap, I guess I just killed a bunch of bacteria. Do I need to feel bad about that or not?
who
So
knows?
then,
Yeah, I mean,
but at what point, oh, I hit a squirrel with my car. Oh my God, like I feel terrible. But where is somebody's ball of guilt? And that just might be
yeah.
different too.
If you think about it, you hitting an animal with your car is kind of like you killed a fucking animal. Like, you shouldn't have done that. You should have
Right.
tried not to. You know, and that's why, like, that's why you keep thinking of that. It's like, um, you always ask for forgiveness,
Right.
because you never know what kind of fuck up you have made today or yesterday or the day before. There's
Totally.
one that you have done, but there's one you're not aware of that probably gave yourself a pass on, and
Oh, totally.
could have been a little bit too fucked up. You
Yeah.
know?
And it could be completely innocuous. I might make a joke at work, and inadvertently hurt
Yeah,
somebody's feelings as being really kind of funny. Like, and
yeah,
they were like, oh,
I,
shit. And I'm like, oh, man. Yeah. And I didn't even know.
yeah. Well, I mean, the least you can do is, like, usually I don't like to apologize for a joke, but I apologize for, like, actually ruining someone's day. Let's say,
Right.
making them feel bad about it. Because it's not what I'm trying to do. And it's not like I can just do a snap change.
Right.
But you could, like, tell them that it's not exactly your intent, like, to hurt
Right.
people. And some people you need to be careful around, and some people you kind of cannot be very careful around. It depends on who you're talking to.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
but you still, like, here and there, like, you do hurt people every now and then. You do all sorts of sins that you're probably not even aware that you're doing, because you're like, your brain is just shut off. It's autopilot. Some shit comes out, and you know
Oh, absolutely. Well, like
you
the
know
older
who
guys
you
that I
are at
work
some
with
point.
at work, we banter. Like it's like we make fun of each other, we joke around. It just seems like like a bunch of dudes hanging out, and it's like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, bald, you're bald, like, oh, you're fat. Like it's not like that, it's more clever. Um But
Yeah.
then I'll say something to somebody and I'll like think it's really clever, and everybody will be like, "Whoa!" And I'm like, "Oh shit, was it that bad?" Like I thought that was funny. Like we were going on this train. I mean, maybe I just took it a little bit too far. His feelings got hurt, but it's like, like whoa, like oh shit, did I take it too far? Sorry about
Yeah,
that, guys. Sorry about that,
yeah.
guys.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you probably you done fucked up there, and
Yeah,
if you look
but I
at it as that
recognized it,
being
and
sin, yeah.
right.
Well, you can keep on in your mind that you do fuck up a lot, so you can like not think, oh, what do you call it? Um, what do you call it? So you cannot just like immediately have autopilot on I'm a good person,
Right.
you know? So
It's like government or democracy. It's something that you have to constantly work on. It's not in stone. You have to keep doing it. It's a process. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, it's yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you're not perfect. You know you're not,
And what
and
your definition of a
yeah,
good person today
if you think,
might be. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, oh, definitely gonna be different every now and then. I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
but like you also at least keep in mind, you know, as much as you would like to think of yourself as a good person, you're probably not. You know, and you shouldn't be like riding on your high horse all the
Right.
time, like all these people are just fucking stupid or bad, or and I'm the
Right.
best because behind the scenes, uh, all kind of uh, you know, and like unordered, fucking cabling going around. Let's call it this way. And you cannot
Well,
do it perfectly, anyways. So just try to be as good as you can, but also don't be ignorant of your own mistakes. And try to be a
absolutely.
good person. Just try to be a good person.
Yeah, and yeah, the try is definitely the key for sure.
Yeah. I, I
Because I
think
think
that,
one of
yeah,
the
and that
things
is the
I
thing.
struggle with.
Hmm? Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
well, I was just saying. Well, I think like along that vein, something that I feel like I struggle with is I get people like say women when I feel like a lot of women say all men are like this, and then I might even be like, God, like that. Like we're individuals. We're all unique, like snowflakes or fingerprints. Like, why are they doing that to us? But then at the same time, I might say something, oh, progressive or SJWs are like this. And I'm just as
I mean,
bad as
yeah,
the
we
people
do,
that I hate
technically.
for generalizing. Yeah, yeah. Like fuck,
Yeah,
I'm that guy
yeah,
too. Yep.
yeah. Well, we all are in one way or another. So I think that is probably the only argument where you can say that people are equal, because people are not exactly equal, let's be honest. Things are not. There's things that have higher value than other things.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just the nature of how life is. But
Oh yeah. Nothing is
the
created
only thing
equally.
that we're equal in is like our own intentions and our own, like, our inability to be perfect. We're
Right?
just equal in that. We all make mistakes, and you know uh, we all can be bad people. We all can be good people. I think that is the only thing that we can be say that everyone is equal, because everyone can be like, I don't know, as bad as whatever the worst person you can have in your mind is. And also everyone can be as good as the ideal good person in your mind is can be.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's where like
Uh
culture comes in, because us being
mm,
equal, like we're not equal, but at some level we are. And I wonder if culture, well, of course, things are getting like blended or because of the internet. But say like in a world where there is no internet and you have a town or a village or whatever, and there's a culture that encompasses ethics, whatever, speech, language, how you treat people, how people want to be treated, and that is sort of the equalizer. So when Ed goes to school or gets
Yeah.
indoctrinated into the society, into the culture, we all know what is considered right and wrong, whether that's other town, city, or country. But then when you decide to go against that, and then you in turn are a dick, uh, yeah,
Yeah.
you'll. Oh, I'm getting some feedback.
Uh,
Okay,
can you say that again? The last bit.
I'm getting. I'm getting some. Oh, I was just saying, I'm getting some like weird, like buzzing feed headphones. I think it went away. Okay.
Yes, that's fine. Um, I mean, that's the thing. I think that's where like most so far, because I only got to half of the book and I forgot to read it again. But like that's where all philosophy fails, because they always take away the humility aspect. That's what I found interesting. It's like everyone wants to take the humility aspect. It's like, why would you want to tell me that I'm a bad person? How do you know? I'm like, you know, I don't.
Right.
You know, but you're probably ignorant about it. And that's probably the most important thing to pay attention to.
Well, I think
It's like, how do you actually act versus what do you think you are?
exactly. And I want to say it was Alan Watts, and I think he wants knife, like a knife, like a knife is
Yeah,
sharp, and how sharp the knife is doesn't matter to the knife itself. The sharpness of the knife is only meant to cut other things. So if I think I'm a good person, it doesn't matter or not. It's it's not for me to decide if I'm a good person to decide. So if I'm a good person and I think I'm a good person, cool. That's just me basically mentally jerking off. But if
yeah.
you think I'm a good person, then that is the mirror by which I should be able to gauge, oh, I have a friend and we've been friends for this long and we do these things, and that's the best mirror for other people. But then if you think you're a good person and everybody hates you, yeah, you're probably fucked.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Well, like, oh fuck, it just flew out of my mind. Fuck. I come on, just let me think. The thing about
Being a good
like
person thinking you
when
are.
you think that you're a good person. Yeah, well, I mean, that always reminds me of one joke, that was, I think it's Louis C.K. who made it. It's like when,
LOL.
you can't exactly have someone tell you you're an asshole, and they're like, no, I'm not, and they're like, they wouldn't go like, oh, I'm sorry, my bad. It's
Right.
like they wouldn't back off when you say, no, I'm not.
Right.
It has a little bit of truth in, you know,
Oh,
like
absolutely.
maybe not entirely true, but I mean, a little bit of truth, enough
Yeah,
truth that you should probably consider some of it.
absolutely.
And that also applies to good or bad people. And
Right.
if a lot of people, all the people around you say that you're a fucking asshole, then you probably are.
Right.
or for
Absolutely.
So they probably have a good reason. And
Right.
it also like shows like your ignorance, that you're not willing to see if there's a problem too, or like if you're
Hmm.
missing something, like you're perfect in your own brain or ideas or something, which no one is.
And if you think that you are, oh my God, that's got to be like the weirdest existence like ever. Like, oh my God, I can't
Yeah,
even
well, I mean,
imagine
isn't
what
that
that would be
arrogance?
like. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's like, you can't get rid of humility. You actually need it in the value systems,
Right.
which that's kind of interesting to think of it, because
Well, when you get
I
rid
never
of the
like
humility,
you always would look at it. Yeah, well,
that's what's
go ahead.
happened. Look at the West. God is dead. Everyone is like based with like Twitter and fucking Instagram,
Yeah,
and that's literally the social experiment. We got rid of humility, we killed
yeah.
God,
I
and
mean,
this is
everyone
this is
thinks
literally what's
they
happened.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone thinks they're moral. Like I see on like sometimes I see like on YouTube videos about people on TikTok who think they are moral, or like they
Mm-hmm.
know how to do moral, like they know what moral is and what is not
Mm-hmm.
moral. And I'm like, motherfucker, you fucking teenager.
Right. And it's all
I don't
based
know
on
what
what
moral
they
is,
think. It's not what
and
it's not based on what they're doing or how they're affecting.
yeah,
It's what they should be done. Right. It's
no,
completely
it's like
backwards.
whatever benefits them sometimes. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I like, isn't that like you probably being like a 10-year-old right now?
Right. A
Probably
selfish
being like a
bastard.
5-year-old. It's like what? Yeah, we are selfish bastards,
Sure.
you know, and
But if
not
you don't know
not
your
taking in your mind that you make those mistakes too.
mm-hmm.
Let's say, um, or thinking that you're moral, by virtue signaling, which I find retarded. Although I think I'm also guilty of it a little bit. At least in this podcast, I'm probably guilty of it. So
Well,
I
we
cannot
all are.
exactly judge people so harsh. So yeah,
I
but
think it
like
also depends on
that
what
shows the
you're virtue
ignorance.
signaling for. Like I always talk about, like I'll wear a nerdy T-shirt when I go out in public, and I
Mm,
feel like that's a virtue signal. Like I'm signaling to everyone around me, look, I'm a fucking nerd. That way, when a nerd is
yeah,
in the same shop as me, they could be like, sweet, awesome, like cheers, brother.
yeah,
So not all
yeah. It would
virtue
be
signal
cool.
has to be political or ethical or anything like that. It's just kind of like, hey, like
Yeah.
somebody wearing a sports
You,
jersey, they're like, go Chiefs or whatever.
well, yeah, yeah. I mean, you also kind of also technically virtue signaling when you, let's say, wear your best clothing and go to the church, for example. That you actually
Absolutely.
committed to the thing
Mhm.
you actually believe in. You do believe in, which I never really understood why you would do that, but like I'm starting to understand it a little bit more and more now, which is like technically I've been told these things when I was like knowing thing and understand is different,
Right.
totally two different things. So
Right.
like I'm starting to understand what's going on now. I'm like,
Right.
is that what is not been happening the past 30, 50 years? Is that why things are falling everywhere almost? You know,
Possibly.
even something as basic as how you dress,
Mm-hmm.
um, can actually show. It's weird because like you don't want to people judging you on how you dress or like, but you do that. You judge
Of
people on how
course.
they dress and what kind of color they fucking dye their hair or something like that. You do that all
Right.
the
Of
time.
course.
You judge people on the low, like the smallest amount of things, and like why do you not want other people to judge you? You're not fucking perfect. You're not better than anyone there.
Right.
You might actually be fucking worse.
Right. Like, what are you
So
hiding?
why don't you focus on your own mistakes than other people judging you?
Right. Totally. And then you get the other extreme of, say, like the people that go out in just like their pajama pants and their hair's all messy, and where they literally might think, I'm so like I don't care what anybody else thinks. So then I'm pajama pants in public and nobody, and fuck everybody else.
I
At the same time,
I'm literally that
that's
person.
well, but I'm about to say at the same time might soothe their own mind because they feel like they don't give a
Yeah,
shit, but
yeah,
also they I think in the back of their mind they're give a fuck what anybody thinks. So when you
yeah,
don't give a fuck what
yeah.
anybody
But
thinks, full fuck, man.
well, I mean that's the thing. Like at some point, nothing will matter at that point. At that conclusion, let's call it.
Sure. But
So
it
I
is
mean,
all situational. When I go
you have
walk
to
my
pick your
dog,
poison.
I
Yeah.
don't walk my dog, all dressed up. I'll go out in a pair of shorts and a long coat and like Birkenstocks
I
and
mean,
look
you
like
don't
a
have to
fucking
always
idiot.
be, you gotta balance
Right.
it a little bit. You get to be casual. You still have a lot of time to be casual, but there will always like be some points where okay, you have to be actually serious about the thing that you do. Not too serious, but not too casual. And you get to move in between.
Yeah.
It's not only one way road. there's
Right. People.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it depends on your situation. So I I am guilty of that too, definitely. Well, probably almost all of us
Well,
are.
and I am totally. But, if I go to the symphony, I'm going to dress up nice,
Oh,
and
definitely.
again, like we were saying, like going to church or whatever, yeah, I'm dressed up, virtue signaling that I'm dressed up and that I'm there. So, and we're all here to listen to, Bombs and Mahler.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, cool. And then I'd buy my people at that point.
Which
And then if there's a guy in shorts, I'm just like, well, fuck that guy. He's he's not into it. Yeah,
yeah,
somebody dragged him here.
he probably got dragged here, which probably sucks, but
Hmm.
it is what it is. Sometimes you do
Right,
get dragged,
right.
and I don't know. It's like I think once you think that, once you have that idea always in your mind, it's like, and I know I probably said that a billion times. Like you and I are not so different, you know. I really like that phrase. I just cannot get enough of it. It's like once I
Right.
think when you have that all the time in your mind, it's like I think it's actually makes listening to people way easier than it used to be.
I
I
can
think
dig that.
yeah, it's a little bit hard to actually
Well,
do
because
that,
I've gone
but it
through.
makes it easier.
No, it is. Because like I've gone through weird periods in my life where I either so I tried really hard to fit in a mold, and then once I
Mm,
realized, okay, this isn't working, and then I felt so completely alien or alienated from everything, and then I'm like, okay, I'm just completely fucking different than everybody else. Okay, well, this sucks. And then I get to feeling comfortable about myself, and then once I got used to that, then all of a sudden I think, is everybody going through this and we're all just doing this too?
yeah.
It's just not something we talk about. So then I end up feeling more normal and humility or human in that state. And yeah, like so then yeah, I've gone from feeling completely different to feeling more normal, and then it's like, yeah,
Oh yeah,
we're
yeah.
all just kind of here.
And I think that is the point of life that I'm currently in. It's like I'm actually starting to understand things a little bit more, or like maybe actually starting to actually understand it. And uh, I guess it helps live in peace with things a little bit more. So it is good
Sure.
to actually know that. It's
Well, a phrase that I've always used is a little understanding way.
come
And
again?
it's like a
Oh,
little understanding goes a long way.
oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Because, I always used to make I sort of came up with that when I was in the service industry, and I always, waiting tables is a really difficult, mentally strained job. And, you get these customers that would come in and they just treat you like shit. Oh, my phone. And, and I was like, and to say, everyone in the world should have to wait tables for like an entire month and have to rely on the tips to survive, just so they understand
Yeah,
what that server is going through, and because of that little understanding, for the rest of their waiter at a restaurant
yeah,
with respect.
yeah. I mean, definitely.
So if everybody could just get that little bit of taste, it changes everything.
Yeah, yeah. Once I guess once you taste your own poison, it's a little bit different. You know, because like you
Yeah.
might see it
Or
as medicine, but everyone else is like fucking suffering from it.
mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think
Well, hey,
once go ahead.
I should probably we should probably wrap up
All
here
right.
like in a couple.
Oh yeah, it's been an hour and 30 minutes. You probably need to get ready. Should I or
Yeah.
should you?
I mean, I guess I could do the outro since you did the intro.
Hell yeah. All right.
Okay.
Take it.
Let's see. Well, I think that's it for today. Good talk, Dark.
Yeah, it's been fun.
We'll see everybody. Yeah, yeah.
It's-
We're on the road. We'll be somewhere else next time. Wherever it is, we're on the way. We'll catch you there.
We're gonna find out when we
More
get
simple
there.
times and simple minds.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
See you
we're gonna
guys.
find out too.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed the
Like, share,
ride.
subscribe.
Oh, hell yeah. Hope you enjoyed the ride and hope to see you in the next episode. Have a good night. Alright, that's it.
Peace.